I'm your host, Sainey, and in today's episode, we brought on our good friend and Boston Celtics superfan, Inangelo. Today, we went over the Celtics and the Heat series briefly, but more specifically, we talked about what the Celtics can do to improve their future and improve their odds moving forward. After that, we go through a recap and a quick, brief discussion on our finals predictions, assuming that the Miami Heat go through, as this was recorded before Game 5 of the Miami Heat-Boston Celtics series. It was a great listen, and we hope you enjoyed the episode.
I am very thankful to welcome a Celtics fan onto the podcast with how much slander me and Sainey give him. Ian, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on. I got to defend my Celtics today. So
that will be a tall task. I'll let you know right now. Sainey, how you feeling?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Ian. Celtics fans are 0-1 right now when it comes to LePodcast. A certain Jeopardy episode had a lot of lag outs, but I have high hopes for you. So we'll see how this episode goes.
So the viewers watching this right now will have already known the outcome of Game 5 to the Boston-Miami series. We don't right now. So maybe Jimmy Butler's head to the finals. Maybe Jayson Tatum is leading the Celtics into a Game 6. But from what we know right now, the series is 3-1, and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart said, "Don't let us get one." So Ian, I want to kick this off with you. We're not going to harp on it too much. But how confident are you now that you might have a little momentum going back into the Garden, TD Garden?
So it's kind of weird. It's like a weird confidence, you know? It's one of those things where it's like, it's 3-0, you know, you won Game 4 because you played inspired. So, like, you would hope the momentum continues. But at the same time, the Celtics have lost like 5 playoff games at home this year, and you don't really know what's going to happen. So pretty much all I can have is blind faith in my team that they're going to make a 3-0 comeback, because that's the only thing I can have, because they're down 3-0 in the first place. But I don't know. I feel like they can pull out Game 5, and then I feel like Game 6 will be the real test for the Celtics if they end up winning Game 5. So, but I don't know. We'll have to see. It all depends on what they're gonna do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're 4-5 now at home in the playoffs.
I think so. Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
They lost one versus Atlanta, 2 versus Philly, and won the first 2 games of this series. Yeah,
that's ridiculous. As
it's
for the Celtics, I'll be honest.
They're the only keeping it chilly.
They were by the way, they were the only
cold.
Team. They were the only team.
Yeah, everyone had their playoff moment this year in Boston.
It's crazy to think the Celtics were my favorite after Milwaukee left, and now that, like, heading into the conference finals, they were the only team that had any losses in the conference finals, like, that were left out of the Celtics, Lakers, Nuggets, and Heat. Before those series started, they were the only team to not be undefeated at home, and not only that, they were like 4-4. And I was just like, what happened here, right? But the thing that kind of would scare me about the Celtics if I was a Celtics fan is, when they're on, it's like nobody can stop them. But how often have they been on this series, or this year in the playoffs in general? You know what I mean? Like, they have had very, very a lot of inconsistency when it comes from, like, game to game. Something that I personally I have not seen from a contender like the Celtics in a while. Like, any contender that I've watched in the playoffs, I've never seen a team that has that much praise. They just came off a finals run to be that back and forth. And the one thing I did not expect was the disappearance of Jaylen Brown as well. And that whole team seems like a mess. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, they could win Game 5, and if they win Game 5, this is a different series, of course, right? But we don't know what's going to happen yet. In my opinion, my humble opinion, Jimmy Butler is going to the finals tonight. But
yeah. I mean, after watching the Celtics all season, I've watched basically every game of the Celtics. The inconsistency has always been a problem, like, pretty much after the All-Star break. I don't really know what happened. I mean, there were rumors that Jaylen Brown was going to get traded for Kevin Durant. That's when that came out. Or when Ime Udoka got the job with Houston. I don't know. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that always seems to pop up that the Celtics have to deal with. And of course, it's all anonymous sources, because anonymous sources know everything. But at the same time, it's just kind of one of those things where the inconsistency in the playoffs has also been a thing. If you remember last year, The Celtics should have beaten Milwaukee in like 5 games. They lost Game 5 because Marcus
I was
Smart
there
at the end.
I was at Game 5.
I was there too. It was not fun. There was just a bunch of times in both the Miami series last year and the Milwaukee series last year that they should have ended the series. Like I think Game 1 against Milwaukee they got blown out, and then there was a bunch of games versus Miami where they just forgot how to play basketball. So that series had to go 7. And then even in this playoffs, I mean, Atlanta, there's no way that should have been a 6-game series. That series should have probably been a 5-game series at best. And then versus Philly, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened versus Philly. James Harden turned back the clock 10 years for like 3 games, and then that's the only reason why the Celtics were able to win. It's just every time I watch the Celtics play, it's like they just love to take their foot off the gas. Like it always feels like they think that they deserve the win. Like they're just gonna come in, they're just gonna blow out whatever team they're playing, and then move on to the next round. Like that's just like the kind of way that I've seen it a few times this year, especially during the playoffs. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope it's just inconsistency, and I mean, there's really nothing you can do about that. So it's just kind of one of those things. It's maddening to watch as a Celtics fan, but at the same time, nothing you can really do about it.
I hate to do this to you. I really do. But I have this tendency to keep receipts. And I just want to remind you that after the Hawks-Heat play-in game, I believe that it was you who went on social media and said, we were supposed to be scared of the Heat. The Heat were supposed to be a problem.
It probably was.
And I think the get back and life comes fast, Ian. We know that. We know this, right? It feels like yesterday you posted, "Oh, the Heat were supposed to be a problem. They're not even making the playoffs." And I think it's just bittersweet that they're getting this get back on you. But I had to bring it up, man. I hate to do it to you.
Hey, I'm gonna bring it up first because maybe the viewers are sitting here right now after Game 5, and the Celtics are back in the series 3-2. I still think the Celtics can make the finals. I think their biggest issue, though, with all these inconsistencies, it's not their playoff experience. I think a lot of it has to do with coaching. I despise Joe Mazzulla. I think he is like this little analytical nerd that is trying to like reform the 2018 Houston Rockets, right? And sometimes it worked. I have the stats here. The reason they won the other game, first off, they had more motor. They had a reason to play. They were backs against the wall. But they took 45 threes and shot 40%. Like, and the Heat shot 32 threes on 25%. That's the game right there. But in the other games of the series, the Celtics shot 26% from 3, 28%, 34, and the Heat shot 54, 34, 51. So just, beating them at their own game. But I think the difference between the Celtics and the Heat is the talent. It's not, a series like this should not come down to who's going to shoot better from 3, who's going to shoot more spot-up threes. The Heat are utilizing their star player in moments where, you need a bucket. It's not, this drive-and kick game, and you're going to give Marcus Smart these really important shots. They have 2 guys, I'm not saying who are on Jimmy Butler's level. Jayson Tatum certainly has the talent to be that guy, but I don't think Mazzulla is putting it in their hands. It's more so like this, anyone can shoot it based on how the look is. And Miami has said the same thing, where like Gabe Vincent said on a post-game show, he's like, yeah, we don't care who shoots the ball as long as it's the best look. But Jimmy Butler is the one deciding that. I don't want Jaylen Brown sitting in the corner to be a spot-up shooter for the last 5 minutes of the game. Like, I think they should be the ones deciding that. That's my biggest gripe with the Celtics. I think if they find it, they can obviously stay hot and maybe win this series. But that's just the difference in the 2 teams. I think one is like getting 100% out of their coach, and the other coach is just sitting there with a clipboard. That's my opinion.
I agree with a lot of the points you bring up, but the Celtics are not coming back in it. I think it's done. I think every chance that we can get, we tend to discredit the Heat, or like always talk about the underdog story. It's always the Heat are always the underdog.
The only reason, because I've seen Jayson Tatum have very good games where his back was against the wall and he needed to be
Have you
aggressive.
seen Jayson Tatum do that 4 times in a row? I'm asking you right now. Have you
I'm
seen
not
Jayson
saying it was
Tatum
4
do that
times in a row, but I'm saying this
That's
team
what he
is
needs,
very
though.
well built.
Right, but have you seen them do it 4 times in a
Jaylen
row?
Brown could have one. Jaylen Brown won the game of the finals.
Right, but 4 times
I'm
in
saying
a row
it's
in critical
improbable,
moments.
bro. It's a 3-0 comeback. I just said it's possible.
I know, but I'm just saying the reason why I think it's out of the picture. I think it's out of the question is that have you ever, and Ian, you answered this too. You would know better than us. Have the Celtics ever done this 4 times in a row in a pressure and a situation like this? No. 2 at most.
Being down, no. But if they've played really well 4 games in a row, they have done it. It was last year.
Yeah,
Brooklyn
well, against the
first
Nets,
round.
against the Nets, too,
Against the Nets,
against a team that was broken.
That's
right?
kind of a different circumstance.
Yeah, like that's a
I mean,
Steve
they
Nash
still had
coach
Katie
team.
and Kyrie though, and yeah, but
Like
I don't
come
know.
on, let's
I
be
mean,
real.
when it
Like in a
comes to
situation
that,
like this,
I know.
it's
I
not.
know.
It's
In a
not. That's why
situation
I
like
gotta
this-
throw them out the picture.
In reality, though, they've never really been in that situation. I mean, that was the first time Tatum, Brown, like that core has been like even down 3-0 in the first place, like ever since like 2018. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like it's uncharted territory, so you never know
They
what's
got
going to
swept in
happen.
2021,
But
and Tatum
they
had a 50 game.
No, they
Tatum
didn't.
had a 50-point game, and they got swept by the Nets.
Tatum won 1 game. It was a 5-point. It was a 5 game.
It was a 5 game. It wasn't 4-1.
Tatum won them a game because
Were they not down 3-0 at one point though? They were down 3-0 at one point.
He dropped.
Know your
15
facts, Sainey.
But they were
Look
down
at this
3-0 at one
bozo.
point. They were
I
down
thought they
3-0
were
at one
down-
point,
Step it up.
right? No, okay, there we go. They were down 3-0 at one point. Jayson Tatum has an amazing
2-1
game
in that
4.
series because Tatum dropped. No. Tatum dropped 51 or 50.
Oh, am I gonna have to
Because I
fact
went to
check
game
this?
4 and they lost game 4. So I know
okay.
it was 2-1.
They were still
before
down
game
3-1
4.
at one point.
El
And what
Sainey.
It
happened?
had to be.
And what happened?
I mean, I wasn't talking about 3-1. I was saying 3-0. But at the
This
same
man
time,
has it out for Ian.
No, I
I'm
just,
just saying.
I just need to we need
To
to bring
get-
up.
I know it's just one, and also Jaylen Brown didn't play in that series in 2021. But regardless, it's just kind of one of those things where you're hoping the Celtics can, they can show that they're this consistent team for 4 games in a row. I mean, that's always the thing that's what scares me as a Celtics fan, because you know how good they can be for 1 game. You've seen it 2 games in a row sometimes. It's just one of those things where you haven't seen it 4 games in a row yet, and that's the thing that's scary. Also,
No,
they do have
you
a guy
don't
on
need
the
to see
other
it 4
side.
games in a row. That's the thing. Like, it's not like if every team played like that 4 games in a row, they'd be the best team in NBA history, right? But it's like right now they need to play like that. That's my point, right? And I'm looking at this.
That's the other problem, because Jimmy Butler's on the other side saying he's not worried. So that's
and
the
I'm
other
looking at this.
problem in the entire thing.
And I'm looking at this now, and the most they've ever gotten was back-to-back wins after the first round. The first round never counts. I'm not counting a Hawks series, or a Pacers series. Get out of here. But
Can I also add, you don't need to be quote unquote consistent 40% from 3 on 45 attempts. Like, that is not the consistency we're looking for.
Look at their wins this season.
I don't
in the
expect
playoffs.
that,
talk.
but that's
Let me
how
talk.
Celtics have wrecked them.
I'm saying the consistency you need is from effort, because good teams will win scrappy games. Hence the Miami Heat. There was one game they shot like 34% from 3, and they just scrapped it out. I forget which game that was. But, their role players have been on fire, but against the Knicks, they won just really just bad, trash basketball games where no one can shoot, and it's just grab an offensive rebound. And I like to think that the Celtics have a decent personnel for those activities. It's hard to go up against Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry because those guys are just raw competitors. But I thought Smart would at least, back against the wall, at least try to rough someone up like Grant Williams tried. I really like what Grant Williams did, because I don't know if that's the quote Smart had. It was like, yo, we beat you guys last year, we're good. It's like, nah, man, like at least get teed up, like show some heart, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like that kind of energy should be coming from Marcus Smart, this like longtime Celtic. Like I just wanted more from him, I guess.
Yeah, that Marcus Smart quote made me cringe a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, because that sounded like a Twitter argument, like mid-game. I was just like, there's no way he actually said that in the middle of the game. But I'm not gonna lie, I've always been a Grant Williams supporter I've been a Grant Williams supporter for a long time, so I was happy to see that at least he's out there at least trying to inspire the team. He's also on a contract here, so he's also trying to get his own bag, but he's also putting that above the team, or he's putting the team above that. And he's one of the only people through the first 3 games that was showing any heart. So when he blocked Jimmy Butler in Game 4, it made me kind of happy. I'm not gonna lie, because I don't know. It just felt like he's the only one that's like going out there talking crap. Nobody else on the team is doing that right now. So I'm happy what I'm seeing with Grant Williams so far.
Yeah, and speaking of him being on a contract year with that, he should get a decent paycheck from someone, because he's this perfect prototype for like the 3 or 4 on a modern NBA team. But if the Celtics were to lose sometime this playoffs, doesn't need to be next game, it could be against Denver. Who do you think realistically the Celtics will keep and give, and who do you want the Celtics to keep and give?
Realistically, I could honestly see them running this team back again. I don't know if they're. It's kind of a weird thing with the Celtics, because they're very loyal to their players. Like Al Horford, I love Al Horford. I think he's one of my favorite players. But it's one of the things where it's like he looked really bad in these playoffs. So, in my personal opinion, I feel like you have to change it up a little bit. Like, what I always thought of is I feel like the Celtics are at a crossroads at this moment, where it's like, okay, you could be a team like Milwaukee. You can make a trade for somebody like Drew Holiday, and then maybe that's like the 3rd star the Celtics can have that can bring them to a championship. Or you can stay with the old core and risk, maybe falling into like a 2010s Raptors trap or a 2010s Jazz trap, where you have the same core for maybe a little too long and your window kind of closed because just for some reason it just wasn't going to work. So realistically, I feel like the Celtics need to change something in the offseason, but I can see it where they just run the same core back and just try to get more role players.
And I got another question for you, because I'm not in the locker room at all, but I do see stuff on social media. Jaylen Brown has kind of been like a half foot out the door, as in like something about the fans, something about just not. I also heard, this could be an entirely fake report because people are just idiots, but I also heard something that the Celtics were tired of fake liking each other. Like, all this stuff was coming out after the down 3-0, and I think maybe a coaching change and a couple role players in and out can resolve the situation to an extent. And Jaylen Brown, money will fix everything. He gets this back from that All-NBA thing. How likely is it that this Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum core can work out without another star? Because eventually, previously they were in the finals, and they're surrounded by a great team. Do you think this can actually happen?
I feel like it can happen. I mean, sometimes we forget Jayson Tatum's only 25 or 24. Jaylen Brown's 26. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they still have time. And, I mean, I've seen a lot of things where it's like, Giannis won his first championship when he was 27. LeBron won his first championship when he was like 27. Steph Curry won his when he was like 28. So I feel like there's still time for the two of them together to work. I do feel like you need kind of a better 3rd star, in my opinion, on the Celtics. That's kind of what I've been kind of thinking, because I love Marcus Smart. He's the heart and soul of the team. He's the defensive player of the year last year. There's just times where it just doesn't work sometimes. And it's one of those things where I feel like you can give it another year or two without trying to trade for a 3rd star. But I feel like they should keep the core of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown together, because I don't know. They showed that they can get to the finals before, and I feel like if they just continue to play together, then eventually they'll end up winning one.
Sainey, I want you to talk because you haven't talked in a while, but I do have something to say in response to that. Go ahead, though.
I'm pulling up some stats right now because, while I do agree with you that there's still time, like they're still young, I think bringing up like LeBron and Curry's situation is a little different because number one,
I know
Curry's co-star Klay Thompson, right? They won their first ring in their fourth season together, right? LeBron, he went to Miami and he teamed up with whoever, and then that's how he won his first ring. It wasn't working in Cleveland. He had the same amount of years in Cleveland that Jaylen Brown and Tatum have had together and with Boston, right? Or just about. So these guys, Giannis won his first ring because they bring on Drew Holiday and they have like a miracle run with Kevin Durant's foot. But like, no, I'm not going to discredit the ring. I'm just saying, like, right, it's situational. And the thing that no, let me finish.
You definitely just discredited the ring.
The difference
because of a man's foot.
Anyway, the difference here is these guys had roster changes. That's what led to their first ring. It wasn't working the first time. Giannis could not win a ring. He kept getting smacked by he got smacked by the Raptors in 2019. 2020, we know what happened. Like they were not winning. The Celtics, yeah, right. They were not winning with that roster. And what did they do? They made a roster change, right? And I think that's what the Celtics ultimately need to do. You're bringing up players, and in hindsight, it looks or like when you say it, it sounds like they just stuck with it and they won. But realistically, what happened was roster changes, right? Trading Monte Ellis for Andrew Bogut, trading, you know what I mean, like picking up these random pieces. LeBron going to Miami, Giannis picking up Drew Holiday. And I think the Celtics
got muscles for no reason. Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, like they weren't winning with Eric Bledsoe, bro. Eric Bledsoe wasn't taking them to a ring, right? Like that's why it took them so long.
Yeah.
So I think the Celtics do need to make some sort of change, right? Like I agree with you, they're young, and I agree with you to stick with it.
About like Al Horford and stuff. Like that kind of core.
I agree with you that they're still young.
Like that's what I was talking about.
You cannot count them out for a while because there's still like, but a change needs to happen like ASAP because this is the time to make the change because clearly it is not working. It is clearly not working now.
Yeah, so I guess I'm in a different frame of mind of you guys where like, you know, if they could keep the team, obviously they would. And maybe the money just changes Jaylen Brown's mind. But I don't want someone on my team that is not 100% bought in. And if it goes to Flames, I think, you know, I don't know how the Houston situation works out, but I do think he could find himself elsewhere. I wanted to bring up a topic where we try to pair Jayson Tatum with a player or maybe two that like makes him a title favorite because the Boston Celtics, we talk about guys who are like fringe number one options where if they had a great team around them, they could be a title contender. This is like the perfect situation. And it was last year, even more so with Udoka instead of Mazzulla. But they have this great situation of a 6th Man of the Year candidate, a great defensive big man, a lot of shooters. The team is just perfectly built. It's not working out. And I do think Tatum and Brown definitely have their flaws. I've been very vocal about Tatum disappearing in big moments by literally just sometimes not having the ball. And sometimes it's a coaching problem. I also think it's a huge coaching problem that he's not being posted up in big spots in the mid-range. Because he's such a great playmaker that it's not like, you know, you don't need to ISO Jayson Tatum in the mid-range, but to not give him opportunities to just get his own buckets instead of like this, you know, sidestep three-pointer or a drive and kick to Marcus Smart, I don't appreciate that. And I think, you know, some of that is based on his skill set. Like he is not the best, like just one-on-one ball handler and pick and roll ball handler, even though he's very good. So to pair up Jayson Tatum with someone who can cover his weaknesses, I think you can either look into an elite point guard, like a Damian Lillard. I'm not talking about, you know, how the salaries match or any of that. I'm just talking about pure talent you can match him up with. I think an elite point guard, like a Damian Lillard, someone who's going to be a consistent scorer and has the ball in their hands to take pressure off him. And Tatum is also great at the other aspects of basketball, like the passing, the defense, the rebounding. I think that would work great. Or you could pair him up with a super Jaylen Brown, another forward who's going to be more consistent and takes more pressure off Tatum, like, let's say, a healthy Kawhi Leonard. I think Tatum would be an upgraded Paul George in that situation. So I don't want to say that Tatum is a number 2 on a championship team, but I don't think he's a pure number 1. I think he'd be like a 1B at best if the team is very well built. And there's still time for him to grow. He could definitely maybe get rid of those inconsistencies. If he's, you know, I know LeBron had a revolution when he played with Dwayne Wade. So there's time for that to fix. But as of right now, honestly, like you could run this team back for 10 years if they're all, you know, just simulate this and they could win a ring win a ring or two. But dang, Sainey. But But I think it's more likely if you were to pair him up with someone who could cover his weaknesses, because Jaylen Brown has the same weaknesses.
No, I agree with everything Hoop just said, but the only thing I disagree with is this same team. Like, what I don't see them winning a ring. Like, the closest they would get to was the Warriors in 2020, and we all saw what happened. They crumbled after going up 2-1, right? You can't lose 3 straight as it, like, being built as the team. And listen, I to your guys' credit, Missoula is definitely a huge reason on why you guys are down right now. I do not like Missoula. The fact that Al Horford is older than him, red flag, right? At the same time, roster changes need to happen. And if I were to pair somebody with Jayson Tatum, I would take Damian Lillard over a guy like Kawhi. I would rather an elite point guard. I would rather an elite guy in the backcourt because we already have Jayson Tatum taking care of the front court. And now, I don't know. That's my opinion. But
I also had a third guy. I mentioned Shea, more for the timeline aspect.
Yeah,
I think another ball handler. I think that would be really cool.
Celtics. That would be great.
Yeah,
let's cut that conversation.
We're
not gonna. Anonymous sources say Shea could go. Like, I don't want LePodcast to be the anonymous source for this narrative. Okay,
anonymous source. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander wants to trade for Jaylen Brown. Something crazy like that.
But do you have a dream scenario?
Like a guy, yeah. I mean, we've talked a lot of crap about Joe Mazzulla, and I've also had my fair share of problems with him. But to try to play contrarian a little bit, in his defense, I know it's been an entire season, but he did only have like a month before the season started to even try to get anything put together because of the Ime Udoka situation. And he didn't get to pick his own assistants. He basically just had whatever was there. And he's, like you said, he's only 34, and he was like the fourth guy on the Celtics last year, because Ime Udoka, Will Hardy left, Damon Stoudemire left, and so it was pretty much just him. So, like, in a way, I also, I feel bad for Mazzulla because he did have like no time to actually prepare, but at the same time, I mean, he's had the same problems all season. So, but if I had to pick a guy to pair with Jayson Tatum, I would also like an elite guard. I think, because like we've seen like the 2 forwards thing before, the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George, and we've seen teams that put 2 forwards together without a guard, and it doesn't normally work all the time. So I feel like you need an elite ball handler. A guy like Damian Lillard would be great. Celtics fans are going to kill me when I say this. Even a guy like Kyrie Irving. Because I like Kyrie Irving. I liked Kyrie Irving. I feel like he got to the Celtics too early in Tatum and Brown's development. But, I mean, a guy like Kyrie with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I feel like that would work out really well for the Celtics.
I feel like Kyrie, at that point in his career, was some of his best basketball. But with the Hayward injury, that photo, the group photo, where they had Kyrie off Cleveland.
Who's going to beat this team?
Hayward after, like, the Paul George level discussions after his All-Star appearance, with, like, a lottery pick, another crazy talent, Jaylen Brown, and they had, like, an All-Star level Al Horford from man. Oh, that was something. They still had to play the Warriors. They still had to play the Warriors.
Who's going to beat this team? That was the thing. That was the thing in 2019. Like, after that rookie Jayson Tatum run, I don't know. It's always been a problem with me because Bleacher Report posted that picture with like all of those guys, and it's like, who's going to beat this team? And I'm like, oh, man, that was
themselves,
so
unfortunately.
I love how like
it was themselves.
I love how triggered you get too when they make like graphics like favoring the Celtics in any way.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, because I still get PTSD from last year versus the Warriors. That's why I have a problem with it. That's why I had a problem with the 97% and the 3%. Because I knew for a fact it wasn't going to age well by the end of the series. Because, I don't know. I hate the fact that ESPN doesn't give the Heat any credit. Because it makes the guys that don't watch every game be like, oh, the Celtics should easily win this series. It should be an easily 4-game sweep. But no, if you've never watched the Miami Heat play before, you know that it's not that easy.
Who's making these percentages? That's always what I wanted to know. Like, who's just sitting there and thinking
they must have 2K where they do like
yeah, just sim it 100
that's
times.
the only thing
They definitely take it from like their lowest point in the season.
Yeah,
and like based on those standings, how would they make a finals run? But the last thing I wanted to say is, I was talking. We mentioned Kyrie, Dame, and while those, I feel like Dame might be the best option. I wanted to throw out if they maybe added another person, because I forget what kind of contract he's on, but Tyrese Halliburton, someone to spray the ball out. Like he already plays that Celtics style where it's that very just efficient game, like knockdown from three, elite passer and elite kickout guy who could also hit cutters. But that makes Jayson Tatum more of a scorer, I think. Maybe Celtics, he's more of a
Tyrese Halliburton would look like prime Rondo. On the Celtics. I'm not gonna lie, I would absolutely love it because Tyrese Halliburton can shoot too,
for sure.
Like he's shown that he can be a clutch player too.
Yeah,
so
he gets buckets.
I would love Tyrese Halliburton.
But I kind of disagree with the Kyrie thing. Maybe if this was earlier in his career and he was more of that true point, but I think he's gotten more into this that bucket getting type vibe. And we'll, off the court stuff aside, I just don't think it's as good a fit as someone who's a distributor, maybe even at a lower level than Kyrie. So,
yeah.
But aside from this, is there anything else we have on the what do you call it?
I mean, we can take a deep dive into the Heat real quick, because it seems like we've always faded away from talking about them. I don't think we've had much discussion in the last few episodes on.
Well, if Game 5 happened, and let's say the Miami Heat are going to the NBA Finals, how do they match up with the Denver Nuggets?
Have you guys heard of the 40-20 rule by Phil Jackson?
Yes. If you win 40 games before you lose 20.
Yeah. The Nuggets, assuming the Celtics lose, they're the only team that meet that criteria right now. In the last 13 seasons, it's proven to be true. I'm going to roll with the Nuggets, and I think the Heat give them a bit of a tough time, but I think it's ultimately the Nuggets series to lose. I think we mentioned that last episode as well. And if I'm going to have hypotheticals for both teams, because let's say the Celtics win and we post this a day late. Heat go through, Nuggets in 6. Celtics go through, Nuggets in 6. I have the Nuggets in 6 either way. I just want to clarify that. I think Jokic is finally going to get his ring. There's also been conversation that they should retire Melo's number with Jokic. No. I love Melo, but number 15 belongs to Jokic in Denver now. It's not Melo's number. You can even admit to that, Hoop, right? Like, as a Melo fan, I don't know why this conversation. They're like, oh, they should co-retire them.
I wasn't really watching Melo in Denver. I was a little too young, so I don't really care about that.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they should co-retire these jerseys. Melo put Denver on the map. They completely fell off the map when he left. So
Jokic would let him, though. He'll definitely release.
Yeah, he's humble like that, 100%. But it belongs to Jokic, and every real fan knows that number 15 is Jokic's number in Denver. But yeah, I guess that's what I think it's Denver's year. Like that, we're gonna see Denver hoist up a banner in the next 2 weeks. But
we mentioned this last episode, but I think it should be more of a treated like not a 50-50 series, but like a 60-40 series instead of like these ESPN percentages saying that Denver has a 99% chance to win. Only because I mentioned last time how the Celtics were being harassed by Miami on the three-point line. Denver has a tendency to play a similar style of ball, so they could kind of take MPJ out of the game and get him out of his rhythm. And it comes down to a shot creation type game where Jamal Murray can explode for 40, and he showed this playoffs that the bubble was no fluke. And just the four teams in general being in this position shows that the bubble was no fluke. But I think Jokic is going to have to show that he needs to get his own and needs to be aggressive for most of the series. He's done well at picking his spots between trying to find Gordon under the rim, trying to kick out of a drive, and then actually taking it to someone. But it'll be interesting how he plays against Bam, because the centers he's faced, I know Anthony Davis is a big dude, but they're not these like, I felt like Jokic kind of like out-hustled Davis. And I don't think that happens against Bam because Miami's just more of a grittier team than LA. And they're not going to have their star taking off plays and kind of sitting on the three-point line. I know LeBron's 38, but a lot of that was happening. which we could talk about the Lakers' downfall too. I think a lot of it rests on LeBron James. It's just going to be a grittier series, and Miami's, there's no shot they're getting swept. It could be a tough 6-game series, which I probably expect it to be. And I do have Denver coming out on top because I think Jokic is capable of doing all that. But it's not going to be any kind of cakewalk.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it'll be an interesting series for the finals between the Nuggets and the Heat. I personally don't really think the Heat have enough firepower. I just feel like with Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray playing like he's playing, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, who played really well in that series, I just feel like the Nuggets have a lot more people they can throw at the Miami Heat that maybe the Celtics don't have. Like, the Celtics have a lot of smaller guards they normally throw at Jimmy Butler, like Derek White or Malcolm Brogdon or Marcus Smart even. But for the Nuggets series, I feel like a guy like Aaron Gordon will be defending Jimmy Butler. So I have a feeling there's a chance that, you know, maybe the Miami Heat struggle. And Miami Heat have been prone to struggling offensively. So I would also have Denver in like 6 in that final series against Miami. If it happens to be the Celtics, however, give me Celtics in 7. I do like the Celtics matching up against Denver versus matching up against Miami. So if the Celtics somehow make a 3-0 comeback, then I feel like I would take Celtics in 7 in that. For Miami, I just feel like Denver has too many pieces. It feels like their year. Also, I feel like no one's talking about this. How is this the first time Denver has ever made a finals in their entire history? Like, throughout the media, but I don't know. It just feels like they would have made a finals before then. But I still think it pretty much will be Denver's year if Miami goes through.
This is a good point to wrap up the episode. I think we got all of our predictions out. This was a great EP. Ian, we appreciate you for coming on. And to the listeners, we appreciate you guys for sticking around. This was episode 75. Hopefully, we can start doing some finals recaps. But if the Celtics win, I mean,
I was gonna say, don't count out Boston teams, okay? Boston teams have come back from a 3-0 deficit before. And Hoop, you must know all about this against your New York Yankees back in 2004.
I was 2 years old. 2 years old.
Well, whatever. But hey, it's happened. It happened in Boston before, and it can happen again. It can happen again tonight.
I love the confidence, and again, appreciate you guys for sticking around. We will see you in episode 76. Peace.